Let's talk about something we all think we understand: work-life balance. But what if I told you that phrase means something completely different depending on where you are in the world? Today, we're going to dig into why that is and how truly getting a handle on these differences is basically a superpower in today's global workplace. Okay, so let's set a scene. Picture a big global consulting firm. It's Friday evening. In their New York office, people are still typing away, grinding it out. Meanwhile, over in Amsterdam, the office has been dark for an hour and a half already. And then there's Tokyo, where they're just getting settled in for a late night. You've got one company, three offices, and three totally different versions of Friday. So what gives? I mean, is the New York office just more dedicated? Is the Amsterdam office more efficient? The answer is, well, it's not that simple. This isn't about figuring out who's right and who's wrong. It's not realizing that we're all seeing the world through very, very different cultural lenses. Yeah, think of it like this. Culture is the invisible software running in the background of your brain. We all have it. It's this programming that we get from our family, our community, our country, and it's constantly telling us the unspoken rules about everything: work, time, what it means to be successful. All right, let's get right to the core idea that explains pretty much all of these differences. It really comes down to a huge split between two fundamental ways of seeing the world. You can think of it as the I world versus the we world. So on one side, you have cultures that lean heavily towards individualism. In these places, it's all about personal goals, self-expression, and what I can accomplish. But on the other side, you've got cultures that are all about collectivism. Here, the absolute top priority is group harmony, how everyone fits together and what we can achieve as a team. And you can really see the difference on this slide. Over on the left, you see scenes that reflect that individualism. Work and life are kept in their own separate, neat little boxes. But look at the right. That's collectivism. Work, family, your social life, it's all woven together into one big, integrated tapestry. And this is the absolute key. In a collectivist culture, they're not even trying for work-life balance. They're aiming for work-life integration. Your work relationships are your personal relationships. Your success at work is your family's success. But in an individualist culture, the goal is separation, building a strong, clear wall between your job and your personal life. So now that we have the big idea, let's see how this I versus we mindset actually shows up day to day and where it can cause some pretty predictable sparks to fly at the office. When these two different styles clash, even simple things can turn into cultural minefields. For example, a manager from an individualist culture who gives really direct, blunt feedback might seem incredibly harsh to someone from a collectivist background. Or a meeting. Is it a place for open, loud debate or for quietly building consensus? Even just leaving work on time can mean two totally different things. Is it a sign of efficiency or is it a sign you're not committed? And yeah, that team dinner that feels optional to one person might feel absolutely mandatory for team building to another. And this story about Yuki and Jack just captures it perfectly. You've got Jark in New York, who just wants the bottom line. For him, efficiency is king. But for Yuki in Tokyo, giving a long, detailed presentation is how she shows respect and thoroughness. So when Jack interrupts, it feels incredibly rude to her. And at the same time, her long presentation feels totally inefficient to him. And here's the thing, neither of them is wrong. They're both just playing by their own cultural rulebook. So, how on earth do you deal with all this? Well, the key is to develop a skill called cultural intelligence, or CQ, and it's not about memorizing a ton of facts about different countries. Nope. It's about being genuinely curious, understanding these kinds of frameworks, and most importantly, learning how to adapt your own behavior so you can be effective no matter where you are or who you're with. And here's the best part. Cultural intelligence isn't some magic power you're born with. It is absolutely a skill you can learn and build. And there are some really practical tools you can start using, like right now. Let's say, for example, you need a bit more flexibility at your job. Instead of just walking in and asking for it, you can use a strategic framework like this. First, you prepare your case, get your facts straight. Then you frame it as a win-win for the company. How does this help them? Maybe it makes you more productive. Third, you propose a trial run. That makes it a much lower risk for your boss to say yes. And finally, you deliver. You knock it out of the park and prove that the new way works. That kind of smart, structured approach, it tends to work pretty well across the board. Okay, here's another super powerful tool, a personal cultural audit. This is all about looking inward. First, take a hard look at your workplace. What are the unwritten rules there? Then, think about your home and family. What are their deep-seated expectations of you? And then the most important part, what do you actually want? What does a balanced life look like to you personally? The real magic happens when you see where those three things clash, because once you identify that tension, you can finally start to do something about it. So, after you do all this work, you understand the concepts, you use the tools, what's the end game? What does success really look like? Honestly, it's a transformation. You might start out like a caterpillar, only really aware of your own little cultural world. But as you learn and you practice and you adapt, you start to develop these amazing skills. And eventually, you become a cultural butterfly, someone who can just move so gracefully and effectively between completely different worlds. And that, right there, is probably the most important thing to take away from all this. This is not about deciding if the separation model is better than the integration model or vice versa. It's about developing the intelligence to understand and operate in both. Being truly successful in our world today means being fluent in multiple cultural languages of work and life. So, as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with this one question. Thinking about your own life, your own job, your own family, what is one small thing you could do this week, just one, to find a little bit more of your own personal balance? Because you know what? That one small step, that's how every great transformation starts.